The morning routine at Ares 6 had always been a thing of precision. As Mars' first truly self-sustaining dome city and humanity's crowning achievement in off-world colonization, routines were not just comforting. They were essential. And nobody appreciated them more than Dr. Eris Thorne. Thorne moved through the gleaming corridors of Biosphere Prime with practiced efficiency, nodding to staff members as he reviewed the overnight system diagnostics on his tablet. 20 years of operation, and the life support system he'd helped design still functioned at near-perfect efficiency. "Morning, Chief," called Javi Ramirez, the youngest member of Thorne's engineering team, practically bouncing with his usual energy despite the early hour. Bioprocessors all running at optimal levels. Another boring day in paradise. Thorne smiled. "Boring is good, Javi. Boring means alive." The massive central chamber of Biosphere Prime spread before them, a cathedral to human ingenuity. Enormous transparent bioreactors pulsed with the genetically modified bacteria that recycled everything from carbon dioxide to human waste. The heart of Ares VI's life support, an intricate dance of biology and technology that sustained 5,000 colonists. 20 years, Thorne murmured, more to himself than to Javi. "Sometimes I still can't believe we pulled it off." "Well, you did design the most sophisticated life support system ever built," Javi said, falling in a step beside him. Thorne allowed himself a moment of pride. Biosphere Prime wasn't just a life support system. It was the crowning achievement of his career, an elegant solution to humanity's greatest challenge in space colonization. Self-sustaining, self-correcting, and virtually foolproof. Or so he thought. The first indication that something was wrong came at precisely 10:17 a.m. Mars Standard Time. Thorne was reviewing quarterly maintenance schedules when the dome security alert pinged. Unusual aerial activity detected. "What have we got?" he asked, joining the small cluster of personnel gathering at the monitoring station. "Unidentified object," replied the security officer, fingers flying over the controls. "Moving fast. No match to any Earth ship profiles." The object appeared on the main screen. A smooth, silvery craft unlike anything in the Earth-Mars fleet. It banked sharply, then hovered directly over the center of Ares 6. "Is it scanning us?" someone whispered. Indeed, the object seemed to be emitting some kind of energy beam, invisible to the naked eye, but registering on their sensors. The beam swept methodically across the settlement, lingering longest over Biosphere Prime. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the object accelerated away, vanishing into the rust-colored Martian sky. For 37 seconds, there was silence. "Run a full diagnostic on all systems," Thorne ordered, an unfamiliar unease settling in his stomach. "I want to know if—" He never finished the sentence. Every speaker in Ares 6 simultaneously erupted with a burst of static, followed by a mechanized voice that spoke in stilted, strangely accented English, then repeated in Mandarin, Russian, Spanish, and several other Earth languages. "Warning! Omega level danger. Your life support system has been identified as extremely unstable. Potential for catastrophic collapse. Immediate evacuation of biological entities advised." The message repeated, each repetition sending fresh waves of confusion through the command center. "What the hell?" Javi breathed. His earlier exuberance evaporated. Thorne stood frozen, the impossible words echoing in his mind. Unstable? His system? Impossible. The PA system crackled to life again, this time with the composed voice of Commander Eva Rostova, head of Ares 6. "This is Commander Rostova. All citizens remain calm. We are experiencing a communications system malfunction. There is no evacuation order. Repeat, there is no evacuation. Please continue normal activities while our technical teams resolve the issue." But the alien warning continued to broadcast, overriding even Rostova's attempts to reassure the population. By afternoon, the situation had deteriorated. The alien message continued to loop endlessly, impossible to silence. Reports of panic began filtering in from throughout the settlement. Small groups of colonists had barricaded themselves in their quarters. Others gathered in public spaces, demanding answers or access to the limited spacecraft docked at Ares 6. In Biosphere Prime's control center, Thorne and his team worked feverishly, running diagnostic after diagnostic on every component of a life support system. Nothing, Thorne said, pushing away from his console in frustration. Every system is functioning exactly as designed. Bacterial cultures are stable, air quality optimal, water recycling at peak efficiency. There is nothing wrong with Biosphere Prime. Then why would aliens, if that's what they were, tell us to evacuate? Javi asked, voicing the question everyone was thinking. We don't know they were aliens, Thorne countered, though the words sounded hollow even to him. This could be a sophisticated hack, or Dr. Thorne. Commander Rostova strode into the control center, her expression grave. We need to talk. She led him to a small conference room where several unfamiliar faces awaited, including a striking woman with silver-streaked black hair tied back in a severe bun. Dr. Lena Hansen, Rostova introduced. Linguistics and communication specialist. She's been analyzing the broadcast. Hansen nodded curtly. I was studying cetacean communication patterns before being reassigned here. Never thought I'd be analyzing potential extraterrestrial languages instead of whale songs. And you think it really is extraterrestrial? Thorne asked skeptically. The transmission contains embedded data packets we can't decipher, Hansen replied. The structure doesn't match any known human programming language, and the signal is overriding our systems in ways that shouldn't be technically possible. More importantly, Rostova interjected, we can't shut it off. The message continues to broadcast, and people are starting to panic. I need to know, Thorne, is there any possibility, however remote, that something could be wrong with Biosphere Prime that our diagnostics aren't catching? Thorne bristled. Commander, I've run every test in the book and invented a few new ones. If there was a problem with my system, I would know. Your system? Hansen noted, raising an eyebrow. Interesting choice of words. Thorne turned to her, irritation flaring. I designed Biosphere Prime. I've overseen its operation for 20 years. So yes, it's my system, and I'm telling you it's operating perfectly. Perhaps by our standards, Hansen replied calmly. But what if these visitors are seeing something we can't? Like what? Thorne demanded. I don't know. That's rather the point, isn't it? Hansen's dark eyes held his. If they possess technology advanced enough for interstellar travel, they may understand principles of physics or biology that we haven't even discovered yet. Thorne wanted to dismiss the idea outright, but something held him back. The unease that had been growing since the craft appeared crystallized into something sharper. What if she was right? Fine, he conceded. What do you propose? Help me decode the data packets embedded in the transmission, Hansen said. They might contain specific information about what these beings think is wrong. Thorne nodded reluctantly. I'll assign Javi to work with you. He's the best programmer on my team. As days passed, tension in Ares 6 mounted. The alien warning continued relentlessly. 3 colonists suffered serious injuries attempting to break into the small fleet of maintenance shuttles. Commander Rostova was forced to institute rationing as normal work patterns collapsed, threatening food production. Meanwhile, Thorne drove his team harder than ever, expanding diagnostic protocols, reviewing years of system data, searching for any anomaly, however small. They found nothing. We're missing something, he admitted to himself late one night, alone in his office. The admission felt like defeat. His entire career, his identity, was built around Biosphere Prime's perfection. And now, despite all evidence to the contrary, he was beginning to doubt. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Lena Hansen stood in the doorway, looking exhausted but animated. We've got something, she said without preamble. A partial decryption of one data packet. You need to see this. The decoded information was fragmentary, but chilling. The alien broadcast wasn't focusing on Biosphere Prime's current operational parameters at all, but rather on something the translation roughly identified as a potential energy signature or theoretical structural weakness. The data referred repeatedly to something called synchronized microentropy cascade. SMC, Hansen said, pronouncing it SMEC. Mean anything to you? Thorne shook his head slowly. Nothing. There's no known phenomenon by that name in any of our research. That's just it, Hansen pressed. What if it's a phenomenon we haven't discovered yet? Something that only becomes apparent under specific conditions or after extended operation. Thorne felt the foundations of his certainty begin to crumble. But what could it possibly be? And why would aliens care enough to warn us? Perhaps they've seen it before, Hansen suggested. Maybe it's a common failure mode in life support systems like ours, one they've learned to recognize. Javi arrived, clutching a tablet. I cross-referenced what we could decode with some obscure theoretical papers. There's a concept in quantum biology about synchronized cellular decomposition events, situations where large populations of microorganisms could theoretically synchronize their metabolic cycles under certain energy conditions. Like our bioreactors? Thorne asked, a chill creeping up his spine. Possibly. The papers dismiss it as an astronomical improbability, but Javi trailed off. But so is aliens showing up to warn us about our life support system, Hansen finished. The next day brought worse news. A small solar flare was heading toward Mars. Nothing catastrophic by itself, but enough to increase the background radiation levels. And in one of the primary bioreactors, sensors detected minute changes in the bacterial colony's behavior patterns. It's subtle, Thorne explained to Commander Rostova, projecting the data onto the conference room wall. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't even flag it. But given everything else, is it dangerous? Rostova asked bluntly. I don't know, Thorne admitted, the words like ashes in his mouth. But these patterns match the preliminary stages of what the alien data describes as SMEC. If the theory is correct, these bacteria, which normally process our waste and carbon dioxide, could spontaneously synchronize their cellular decomposition, releasing massive amounts of methane and other volatile compounds within minutes, turning Biosphere Prime into a biological bomb. Rostova concluded grimly. Exactly. The dome would rupture. We'd lose atmosphere, pressure. Thorne couldn't finish. Everyone would die, Rostova said flatly. How long do we have? If this solar flare triggers SMEC, as the data suggests, hours maybe. Rostova's face hardened. Options. 2 possibilities, Thorne said. First, an emergency partial venting procedure. We deliberately release pressure from specific bioreactors, purging the affected bacterial colonies before they can fully synchronize. It would cause localized contamination, and we'd lose about 30% of our processing capacity, but might stop SMEC from propagating through the entire system. And the second option? Lena Hansen stepped forward. Try to communicate with whoever sent the warning. The data packets contain what appear to be response protocols. We've assembled a message acknowledging their warning and requesting assistance. We're not sure it will work, or even if they're still nearby to receive it. Do both, Rostova ordered. Thorne, prepare for the venting procedure. Hansen, send your message. I'll inform the population the partial truth. Technical issue with the bioreactors, precautionary measures being taken. I don't want to create more panic by mentioning aliens or explosions. As Rostova left, Hansen turned to Thorne. This isn't your fault, you know. No one could have anticipated this. Thorne shook his head bitterly. I should have. Perfect system, what arrogance. All these years, we've been sitting on a time bomb, and I never even suspected. No human could have. That's the point. Thorne and his team scrambled to implement the emergency venting procedure, fighting against both time and the increasingly erratic behavior of the bacterial colonies. Internal alarms began to sound as pressure fluctuations rose beyond acceptable parameters. Primary venting sequence initiated. Javi called out, his young face tight with concentration. Bioreactor 3 depressurizing. Too slowly, Thorne muttered, watching the gauges. The process was designed for gradual, controlled release, not emergency purging. At this rate, we won't vent enough before. A shudder ran through the facility. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Pressure spike in bioreactor 5, someone shouted. Temperature rising. It's starting, Thorne realized with horror. The cascade is beginning. At that moment, the facility's external sensors blared. The alien craft had returned. Inside the control center, screens displayed the silvery object positioning itself directly above Biosphere Prime. A brilliant beam of energy, visible this time as a shimmering blue light, lanced down into the heart of the facility. Instead of the catastrophic explosion Thorne expected, the pressure gauges began to stabilize. Temperature readings fell back toward normal ranges. The bacterial activity patterns, which had been accelerating toward critical synchronization, appeared to be damping. "They're helping us," Javi breathed. The alien warning message, which had continued its relentless loop for days, suddenly stopped. Moments later, a new message played through the settlement's communication system, shorter, clearer, though still in the same mechanical voice. Response to warning detected. Temporary stabilization protocol activated. Recommendation: adjust microbial strain or deploy entropy dampening field within 3 planetary cycles. Technical specifications provided. End communication. In the silence that followed, Thorne looked at the stream of new data flowing into their systems. Detailed schematics and biological information far beyond current human science, yet just comprehensible enough that he could see how they might implement it. "We can do this," he said softly, wonderingly. "They've given us the solution." The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. With the immediate danger averted by the aliens' intervention and the venting procedure completed as a precaution, Ares 6 began the massive undertaking of modifying Biosphere Prime according to the alien specifications. The entropy dampening field turned out to be a sophisticated but implementable technology that introduced a controlled energy pattern to prevent the fatal synchronization of the bacterial decomposition. The colonists discovered they could manufacture the necessary components using resources already available on Mars, though the theoretical principles behind it stretched the boundaries of human physics. Thorne threw himself into the work, driving himself harder than anyone. The revelation of Biosphere Prime's fatal flaw had shaken him to his core, forcing a painful reassessment of everything he thought he knew. One evening, as he pored over the alien schematics, Lena Hansen appeared at his workspace. "You should rest," she said, setting down a cup of coffee beside him. Later, he replied automatically, not looking up. "You know," she said, settling into a chair opposite him, "in cetacean studies, we found that whales have warning calls that differ based on the type of threat. Different signals for orcas versus human boats. Specialized communication evolved over millennia." "Your point?" Thorne asked, finally glancing up. "Those aliens had a standardized warning protocol ready to go, specifically for life support systems like ours. That suggests they've encountered this exact scenario before, perhaps many times." Thorne considered this. "You think there's some kind of space safety inspectors?" Hansen smiled slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe advanced civilizations develop a sense of responsibility toward emerging technological species. Like how we might put up a warning sign near a child playing with matches." "Not the most flattering comparison," Thorne noted dryly, "but accurate. We were children playing with forces we didn't understand, thinking we were masters of our environment." She leaned forward. "The question is, what will we do with this humbling?" 3 months after the SMEC incident, Ares 6 had changed profoundly. Biosphere Prime now operated with its new entropy dampening field in place, the modified bacterial strains performing even more efficiently than before. The settlement had not only recovered, but had emerged stronger, incorporating other insights gleaned from the alien data. In his new office, smaller, and shared with 2 other engineers, Thorne addressed the incoming class of environmental systems trainees. He had stepped down as chief engineer, taking on a new role focused on theoretical advancement and safety research. "The most dangerous words in engineering are perfect system," he told them. "What happened 3 months ago taught us that our understanding of safety and stability was dangerously incomplete. We now know that the universe operates according to principles we're only beginning to comprehend." Later, walking through the dome with Lena, now a permanent member of the settlement's news and communication department, Thorne paused to look up at the Martian sky. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked. I don't know, she replied honestly. But I think we should assume they're watching. Or others like them. It's strange, Thorne mused. All those years searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, imagining first contact as either an invasion or a diplomatic exchange. Instead, we got a safety inspection and a repair manual. And it may be the most valuable gift humanity has ever received. Lena pointed toward a group of children playing nearby, carefree beneath the dome. Not just the technology, but the perspective. The knowledge that we're not alone, and that perhaps the universe contains forces looking out for emerging civilizations, even if only through automated warning systems. Thor nodded. It changes everything, doesn't it? Our place in the cosmos. Our understanding of progress. On the eastern edge of the dome, construction had begun on a new research facility dedicated to studying the alien data and advancing human understanding of SMEC and related phenomena. Earth governments had finally united around a common purpose, preparing humanity for a universe more complex and more populated than they had ever imagined. In her lab, Lena continued decoding the remaining data packets, uncovering tantalizing fragments of information about the mysterious beings who had saved them. While their exact nature remained unknown, whether they were a neighboring civilization or distant observers, benevolent guardians, or simply following standard protocols, their intervention had undeniably changed the course of human history. And as Mars rotated beneath alien stars, the people of Ares 6 slept soundly, their lives continuing under the protection of technologies they were only beginning to understand, humbled by the knowledge that their survival had depended not on human ingenuity alone, but on an unexpected warning from the depths of space. What lay ahead? Further contact, new revelations, or silent observation remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. Humanity would approach the cosmos with newfound caution and wonder, aware that in the vast darkness between stars, someone or something had deemed them worth saving.